Thank you. This is not the normal crowd that I'm used to addressing. These are not Starfleet uniforms, so I'm clearly not a Comic-Con. I have been asked here because what I do, as I've discovered, seems to be the only way to make other people understand what you do. Because since the 1980s, I've noticed that there is a cultural divide between civilian population and the people who keep them safe. There has been such a division that most people don't really understand how things work anymore. And through my books, initially unexpectedly, I discovered that that is the best way to get people thinking about preparedness. I've been asked a lot with my first book, The Zombie Survival Guide, do I have a zombie kit? And I say yes, it's my earthquake kit. It's the exact same thing. And because there's nothing really specific, nothing zombie specific about zombie survival. It's simple disaster preparedness survival. And this is why the CDC has their own zombie plan. Because it's the first time in my life that I've seen the federal government actually do something cool. You know, I'm 40 years old, so I've lived through a lot of federal outreach programs to young people, most of which not so good. I remember Smokey the Bear. Only you can stop forest fires, which to me as an adolescent said, wow, that means only I can start them. But now for the first time, you actually have young people thinking about bottled water, about medical kits, about a radio, about having an actual survival plan, which to me is amazing. It's the first time that young people have actually been tricked into taking care of themselves. Because even if a zombie apocalypse does not happen, they will be ready for the next hurricane, or the next earthquake, or some sort of disaster, which I think is wonderful. So that is working on the micro level. But the macro level is where the real hard work needs to be done. The big picture thinking. On the micro level, we're teaching people what to do when the lights go out. But we still haven't done anything to really educate the American people about why those lights go on in the first place. Most people have no concept of the delicate threads that hold society together. Most people don't understand that the things that were considered luxuries a century ago, and still are considered luxuries in many countries, are now necessities in this country. And when I wrote my second book, World War Z, what I was trying to do was illustrate those threads and talk about what can happen when they're severed. And I'm constantly confronted with people not understanding how vulnerable we are. Most people don't understand where their clean water comes from, or their electricity, or their sewage. They don't understand how dependent we are on international trade. And they don't understand what would happen if any of that has been severed, even though we see examples of it every day. And what I've learned, simply as a writer, as what I like to call not just a civilian, but more of a civilian than most civilians, what I've learned is that there are no more local problems. And we see that all the time. We saw it in Hurricane Katrina, when the damage to the oil infrastructure sent gas prices through the roof. We saw it after Fukushima, where American auto plants had to shut down because of one part they all needed from one factory in Japan. I saw it after Sandy. Literally, when Hurricane Sandy was going on, my wife said to me, you know, we live in Southern California. She said, we should probably get a generator. I said, that's probably a very good idea. I went right down to my Home Depot and they said, nope, we don't have any. Ralph Laurie took them all. Physically. Drove around in a U-Haul and just picked them all up and took them back east. But what would have happened had there been an earthquake? How many hits can we absorb as a nation before those threads really start to fray? And what I've learned is that we have never, at a time when we have never been so interdependent on each other, we've also never been so vulnerable. We've never had so many citizens getting their food from same-day delivery. When I learned that, that blew my mind. I realized that we're actually more prepared in 1917 than we were now. Because in 1917, if you went to your food store, everything was pickled or dried. And now everything is either refrigerated or frozen or dependent on same-day delivery. What's going to happen when those trucks don't show up? We've never had so many Americans dependent on medical technology and medication just to keep them alive. And now that the population is aging, it's going to become even more acute. What's going to happen when they can't get their medication? Or when the power goes out and they can't get their dialysis? And at the same time that we are so vulnerable that we actually need each other more, that we need more cooperation, we need more integration, and we need more of a sense of community than we've ever had, we have more forces within our own political leadership that are calling for its disband. We have more people than ever saying, well, we don't need to repair our infrastructure. That costs money. We don't need all these expensive city and state and federal services. That costs money. These people are actually calling for the dismemberment of the threads that hold us as a civilization together. Most of them not realizing that what they're really calling for is a failed state. What they're really calling for is anarchy, which is simply what I see around other places in the world. The peace of the gun, law and order by strength and force and intimidation, small communities that are tied together by ethnic rivalries or religion. You see this every day in not every other part of the world, but in too many parts of the world. And we in America, certainly my people, regular civilians, we think that will never happen because we don't understand what separates us from the abyss. They don't understand that it's you. Your job has never been harder. You've never had less support. At the same time, you've never had a heavier burden. I mean, the simple fact is, weather patterns are getting worse, and North America has always had the worst weather. The simple fact is, North America is the only place in the world where major cities are built on major fault lines. You know, everywhere else in the world, cities are thousands of years old. People would come, they'd build a city, they'd have travel and trade, the camels would come in with the spices, and then a major earthquake would happen, and they would say, well, we're not building our city here anymore. And if you go anywhere else in the world, you look at these cities, and they go, why'd you build it here? And your tour guide will say, because it was safe. Not North America. We come and we say, oh my God, wow, look at this peninsula, it's beautiful, and the birds, and we're going to call it San Francisco. What could possibly go wrong? And then we think, oh, well, we're Americans, we can do anything. Look, here's a huge desert where nothing is growing and nothing should grow. Let's pipe all our water down here and call it Los Angeles. What could possibly go wrong? Most people don't really understand what separates us from the abyss. You are. You're the people that separate us from the abyss. That's why I'm so humbled to be here. That's why it is such an honor for me to come here and listen to what you do and watch what you do, because I realize how truly hard your job is. When Ralph Laurie started his job, he had a full head of hair. See what being in the DLA does to you? But I wanted to come here to truly say thank you. Because as an author, as a writer, it's my job not just to entertain, but hopefully to educate. If I can get people thinking just briefly about what it takes to keep the lights on, and about what it takes from the people who keep the lights on, then I will have done my job. So I know this is very brief, but you all have a lot of work to do. If you have any questions, I'll take them, but thank you very much.